And this is, hey, how you doing, Steven?
Hey Jorge, what's going on?
It's so great to see your face here. Thank you for joining Cactus and
Nice.
Studio Visits here.
Oh my gosh, it's so nice to see you too.
Likewise, I was just giving a quick tour of what's going on in my studio here
Yeah,
in
looking
East
good,
LA.
man.
Yeah, just some little bit of inspo from the past. Painting that I worked on with Jocelyn Casas, who goes by High Hopes on Instagram. This is a collaborative piece that I did with Hannah Perez here in LA. Some work in progress and some testing things. We got some, what do you call it? What's the name of that paper that you use to make uh, templates for clothes? It's like
Uh,
manila paper, right?
Blotting paper? Blotting
Plotting
paper?
paper. So that's
Yeah.
some plotting paper there. Trying to make some paintings, some extra materials. And yeah, but that's a little bit about what's going on over here. I don't know why my camera is so blurry, but I'm going to ask if you turn your camera to the side so that people can hold the phone on both ends. I think it'd be nicer.
Ready? One, two, three. Okay, we
Oof!
did it.
All right,
Woo!
yeah.
Man, whoa, what a journey.
What a journey. Steven, so how do we know each other?
Jorge, I think I know where we met, which is I think we met at an alumni event. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
But I think it was just like it was like, oh, I like this guy, and you and I started hanging out after that. I think we would just like we're fast friends pretty soon after that.
I mean,
We
you're pretty easy to get along with, and you have so much enthusiasm for art that we had a lot of things in common, which I think is good.
Yeah, likewise. It was really funny. I think I met my other long-term collaborator Molly Shea at the same event, I believe, and Molly and I just did a collaborative project last week.
Molly
So
is
it's fun.
wonderful.
Yeah,
Are
she's amazing.
you
I'm,
featured on her podcast? Is that what's up?
yeah, I'm on her COVID Theater 2020. I'm in episode 2.
Molly's a super talented woman, and I love how extravagant her ideas are. I was really fortunate to be able to hang out with her in Berlin and catch up with different types of ideas. So, and I know that you have a long history working with her, so it's nice to hear that you continue working with her.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. She brings out the best in me, as do many of my collaborators like yourself. We used to
Yeah,
have a studio together in Los Angeles or in Long Beach, right?
yeah. And it was really wonderful space because it was a storefront, and we were in a city block that was completely uninhabited at that time.
Yeah.
We got to do mayhem. It was quite pleasurable to be able to do it. Hey, Richard, how you doing?
Hey,
Speaking of Long Beach
Abby,
natives,
what's going on? Look at all these great people.
look at all these people. Let's wave. Sorry, I haven't waved at anybody.
Oh, I know. I should wave. Oh gosh, let's see. Sideways wave. Hold
Yeah,
on.
it's I live wave.
This is interesting. I'm
Oh
gonna
yeah,
do
this is
some
great.
COVID love for everybody. Here we
Yeah,
go.
definitely. Um, and so, if you have any questions about Steven's practice at any point, please type it in. We'll engage slowly, but we'll get there. But going back to Steven's practice, so one of the things that I loved about being studio mates with Steven was that he already had this idea when I moved into the studio to share with him to create exhibitions and to foster community by enabling exhibitions. And I was completely open, like my eyes were open to this new way of working that I was very thankful to be exposed to. I think that you were a big inspiration of being able to grow into Cactus. How would you explain, or how would you describe that aspect of your practice, Stephen?
Thank you so much. That's so nice of you to say, and I didn't realize that I'd had that influence on you, so that's nice to hear. I think that when we moved into the space, I had lived in Chicago right before I moved to Long Beach, and Chicago has a long tradition of DIY spaces. And when I was living there, I lived there for 3 years, right during grad school and right after grad school, and for me, those DIY spaces where all the sort of like energy was in the art scene, all the things that like inspired me were interesting. And so um, I was just way too poor to have a DIY space when I lived in Chicago. I didn't really have a job for most of the time. It was like gallery hours for $10 an hour kind of jobs. But then when we moved to Long Beach, and also stuff was so affordable back then, we were able to get that space, and it was so public, had those big storefront windows, that we were able to really think about programming and alternative spaces in a way that was something I'd always wanted to experiment with, and make not only like a public gallery space, but also make a space where people from the actual public, not just art people, would feel comfortable to come in and chat with us and ask what was going on, and why do you have these weird drawings on the wall. I think that's what I really wanted, because I did love those Chicago art spaces, but I realized that only Chicago art people really knew that was going on. It was never like a very it was never a truly social or a truly public sort of for project for most of the spaces. And so where the space that you and I had in Long Beach, I really wanted it to be somewhere where randos could come in and chat with us, which it definitely was. It was great.
Absolutely. I'm going to just go ahead and concur with that, because in the middle of the night, they would be like, I'd be working in the studio at 1 o'clock in the morning, and the family would just pull over and come in and be like, "What do you do here?" And I'm like, "That's a real legit question. Why would I negate like any question that's being asked to me?" And I would welcome them in, and we would have these wonderful conversations that were just like abstract and very generous, because they're like an unfiltered, unskewed eye about what you're doing. And I remember we would activate that window in so many different ways. One of the things that I do remember about our experiences is how it was great to see your material use of fabrics and yarn and buttons and glitter, and also like the kind of like anthropomorphic feeling that you use to transform all these materials. I was wondering if maybe you could show us something in your studio that could maybe resonate with that type of description, Steve.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I can show you. Hold on, I can't go sideways. I'm just like so inclined. I'm literally. I'm a professor here in Boulder, so I'm actually writing a prompt for my students for their final project for the semester, and their prompt is going to be to use to like think about how video has changed, right? The material video has changed because we're on Zoom all the time, and I try to get them to shoot in landscape all the time. But when I'm with the phone, all I want to do is make vertical videos, so I totally understand it. All right, I'm going to switch my camera around, Jorge, just a second. Okay, so thinking about visceral materials, this is a material that I have here that's actually part of a project which now hangs on the Boulder Museum of Contemporary Art. This is a sample that I did for it, and
this is right side up, right?
Yeah, this is right side up. Actually, this is a 10-foot strip of that I made from. This is actually the kind of webbing material that you have in your chairs in the backyard, and it was inspired by my great aunt. This photo over here of her in her backyard with her partner. I have all these photos of like one or the other in a chair, and I wanted to like create a piece where they could be, I wanted to create a piece where they could be together, kind of visually together. So this is actually the artist, this is my rendering of what it looked like when it went up on the building. It's
how touching.
Thanks, yeah, it's up now. I don't have a picture here in the studio, but you can actually go to BMocha's website and see it. But when you talk about that idea of materiality, look, I saved all of the scraps from my project for a future project.
Oh man,
right?
that is so heartfelt.
Thanks. Yeah, I wanted that, like, I wanted to think about how do you embody that feeling of suburbia, like privacy, kind of like content in your own home. And it's really funny that I was like searching for that sort of like my house is my castle kind of feeling with this piece. And now so many people are experiencing my house is my castle in their own lives. Here's another piece where I was thinking a lot about materiality and people. This is an older piece, maybe from 2 years ago. And this is a t-shirt that I had from my middle school. And this is like our middle school colors. And I made it look kind of like a pom-pom with this gold. Our middle school colors were blue and gold. And this is actually a tribute I made to the boys that became cheerleaders in my middle school, Patrick and Todd. I was too afraid to become a cheerleader, although that's what I really wanted to do. Instead, I was a record-losing basketball player.
This is in Vermont?
This is in New Hampshire, but yeah, I had 3 negative baskets in the other team's hoop. So my season average was -6.
Wow, I didn't think that was possible in basketball.
Well, they gave me some sort of sad award. But, when I picked this fabric, I wanted it to like have those like team colors, of like a middle school, and to like have that implication and then really build out this center structure to give us that like pom-pom kind of feeling. So that was an older piece.
Let me ask you, Steven.
Yeah.
There seems to be like a lot of patterning that's involved in how you make things.
Yeah.
And some of that is like woven like that, right?
Yeah.
Can you maybe address what it is that goes through your mind in that process?
The process of making something or the process of patterning?
Patterning specifically and how that relates to making.
Wow. Well, so this is a piece that I'm working on right now, if we think about pattern, right? And this is like one part a test because I wanted to test some new materials and a new loom that I had. And then two parts also just sort of like meditation. So each of these, when I created the pattern, when I try to think about what it means, I think about Agnes Martin, the painter. I love her work. And there's sort of like a meditation to her mark making. And that's the thing about weaving is weaving is definitely meditative. There's a repeat, like a place, and almost like when you're weaving, you can get into a really interesting headspace. You can fall into almost like a state that's kind of hard to describe. So for this pattern that I set up, this was actually like about passing the time. So each of these are 12. These are 12 and 12. So this is 12 of these, 12 of these. So it's the same amount of time, but based on the thickness of the item, it has a different distance. So just kind of thinking about kind of really, really thinking about that idea of time being the same, like the same amount of hours right now, but it passing in these like really long, different ways, depending on what's happening at the moment. I know that's
so that means
muddy.
that, like, if I'm understanding correctly, like, so when you look at this, there's like a decoding for you that relates to time.
Yeah.
Because
and that's not
because you're counting, right? So then, does that mean that also means that like the count is what provides your order, your structure?
Yeah, I mean the count sometimes provides the structure. Sometimes I think the pattern is really important, right? When you're weaving, pattern is kind of a basic structure when you're weaving. So like in this older piece that's also right here, I was less concerned. I was actually trying to like break the pattern. You can see on my edges, they're like really wild edges. Whereas this one, I was trying to like be a little bit more structured with the way that I created it. So
for me, with that kind of stuff?
Yeah, you do. Definitely, you can change the things. So when it comes to stuff like when it comes to thinking about pattern, pattern is it's such a weird thing. It's such a formal question. It's weird that it caught me off guard. It's such a like formal question. It's a thing I deal with constantly. Thanks so much for asking it that I like haven't always unpacked. But pattern is the building structure of weaving. You repeat pattern, you break pattern to create certain images. You have to use a pattern to like build the substructure, which you construct the whole thing. So for me, going in and out of the pattern is sort of my strategy in the studio. Sometimes it becomes a place where I can really like concentrate, and sometimes it's a place where I like weave and delineate. Sorry, Jorge, what were you gonna say?
You know what, I was just about to say how like that's definitely like one of those like foundational things in what you make, but I always found like the pattern is complemented by the kind of like curveballs that you throw in. So when you were looking at the pom-pom kind of homage to the boy cheerleaders, there's also that like really wonderful kind of like burst of energy that you use, but it also has like this very democratized like aesthetic that you see like in a rug in a home. So I think in that sense, it's also really nice to be able to see that there's like a sharp, crisp contrast between the cloth and then the what is that reflective material that you got there? What do you call it?
Sequins.
Sequence.
Yeah.
But sequence is also something that, like, and not just for sequence, but like the flashing material is also a recurrent kind of theme in what you make, and the different types of things that you create. What is that related to?
So that's a good question. I think a lot of people say I use glitter, and you did too earlier, but I actually have never used glitter in my art. I use sequins, but it's funny that people think it's glitter. I always let it fly. I let it fly. It's fine.
Sequence, yeah.
Glitter's messy. Is Marsha? If Marsha's still on here, snaps to Marsha. She uses glitter to great extent in a way that I cannot. But the thing with sequins is that sequins are reflective, right? And I like this idea of like a mirror where you can't really see yourself, but you're still attracted to it because it has that sort of screen quality, the way the sequins do. Metals, metallics, reflective surfaces. There's something sort of ostentatious and vain about a sequins surface. There's also something very heavy about sequins as a material, like it weighs down the whole composition. So it's like this mirror kind of substance, but it also causes everything else in the weaving to like sag in a way. So it has like a presence and a vanity as a material.
So
Yeah,
the
there's
sequence
weight.
gives you
Yeah,
like physical weight, and that
yeah,
physical weight gives you presence, right?
yeah. And then they also have a reflective presence as well. So people are very much drawn for them. And I love reflective materials.
Yeah, I think I want to echo something about that because the sequence, as much as it like absorbs light, it also reflects it. So in that sense, that presence is also being projected. Because I remember there's like some things that you do like with little disco balls, and that you play around with the contrast by like dipping it into like
Yeah.
paint, or you paint on them, and
Mm-hmm.
that like, and sometimes the paint is also very viscous, so it like absorbs some more light in other areas.
All right. I'm going to go over here. This is where I store a lot of my weavings around this clothing rack. And so you can
Can you
see.
show us that a little bit?
Yeah, do you
Like
want to see the whole
shot?
rack? Here, I'll show
Yeah.
you. There's a bunch of
Wow.
my weavings up here on
That looks
this.
like a John Waters like prop set or something.
Oh, cool. Oh my gosh, you're so nice. I wish, gosh, if John Waters wanted to buy something, he could buy the whole rack. I'd give him a deal.
Hashtag John Waters.
Jeez, that would be great, right? Yeah, there's a sequence one. That one's like, wow. It's
Oh,
like
yeah.
reflecting this one over here. But no, the one you're talking about, Jorge, is one of these. These are the series that I did right here, and I'll just bring this over so we can get a better look at it.
Wow, what a cool studio space.
Thanks. It used to be a Iron Man CrossFit space, but now, because I live in Boulder, Colorado, but now it's a studio space. When I bought the house, it was like, this is my Iron Man training space. I was like,
Whoa.
so these are the sequin balls you're talking about, or these are the glitter balls you were talking about. Yeah.
They're so nice.
So these are a series. I use glitter disco balls dipped in Tool Dip. I use that as a reoccurring theme in my work. I often use it to talk about Liberace, who is like, an interesting character because he was in the closet his whole life. He's a queer person who kind of lived not with a presence. He lived kind of ostentatiously, like everyone knew he was queer, but he like refused his queerness in public and even sued people to his dying day who said he was queer. So I always think of him as like a sad disco ball, is like how I think of Liberace, because he's this bright, shiny thing that doesn't want to be bright and shiny. He like wants people to believe he's something else. It's totally ridiculous. So I use Tool Dip, which is like, yeah, it's super viscous and it completely makes the bottom of the disco balls matte. So I use these like disco balls dipped in it to be kind of shorthand for his sort of like self-hate, his sadness, but they're still like glitter. Like it's still there. It's still bright and sparkly. I'm actually, I don't know if it's going to happen or not, but I actually am collaborating with a couple artists here in Denver are doing an artist-run haunted house this Halloween. I don't know if it's going to happen or not. Hopefully it happens. But I'm designing a room that's sort of like Liberace, not in hell, but maybe Liberace in some sort of limbo. So there'll be a lot of giant tool dipped disco balls and sad chandeliers filling up that Liberace room that I'm designing for the haunted house.
Damn. I have a question I want to get back to, but before I get derailed with this question, would you give us a glimpse as to like what your studio situation is?
Yeah, of course. Let me get you a full shot. All right, I'll do this. So this is like my library and my kind of station where I spend most of my day working. And I have works by other friends here on the wall. Some of them, it's Bobby Meyer, Theo Knox, there's like Carol Francis Lung. That's me in grad school. Some other pieces. That's Ivan Lozano. There's Abby Kraus, just gave me that cool weaving there, which I'm in love with. That's Aquaman. He's hot. So I have that. So yeah, here's my bookshelf and stuff. I actually have this loom, which I use a lot of times for a backdrop. I have this loom. This is oops, don't look at that. It's my messy floor. This is my Navajo inspired loom. So it's not a Navajo loom, but it's based on a Navajo styled loom that they would use to make large rugs and large wall hangings. So right now I'm starting working on a sun type shape. It's like a circular shape that's going to be part of a large flag that I'm making for the city of Denver. So this background that you see here is going to be part of, it's going to actually just be a circular pattern in the middle of it. Here's my clothing rack where I keep all my stuff. And actually, I'll show you this. I do have a sick obsession with buttons as well. So these are all my crazy, I have this wall of just buttons. This is a pizza slice I made. It's like a pizza quilt that I never showed anybody. I just made a bunch of them one day, and then I
Is
just
this
like,
supposed to be
cool.
like an American flag?
No, it's just supposed to be like, I called them problematic pizzas. They're supposed to be like currency, like artists get paid in pizza. That was the idea, but I don't know if
We do get paid in pizza.
yeah, we get paid in pizza. Here's my floor loom that I have that I haven't, it's not totally warped yet. I've been working on it, warping it this week. But this is a carpet loom, and I'm making a big piece for a show at BMOCA, the Boulder Museum of Contemporary Art. I'm making a piece that's, well, this piece that you see over here is the exterior of Helen and Alice's house. This piece that I started here is going to be based on the interior of their house, and it's going to be based on their plastic covered furniture.
So what materials are you using on that loom?
Well, right now, this is poly cotton rug work material. It's really strong because I'm going to actually put a bunch of the sequins in it. And then this test strip that you see over here, this is sort of similar to the 1960s kind of couch design. So it's going to be like this, but wall-sized.
Did they also have like furniture with like plastic on it?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I think I'm going to cover the whole weaving partially in like that furniture vinyl when I'm done. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
we'll see.
That was such a weird experience going to my aunt's house with all
oh yeah,
it was so weird, but
it's not comfortable.
No, not at all. And it was just, I don't know why it was so shiny. Like I liked that it was shiny, just it was so hot.
Here's my tool wall here, and yeah, and I didn't really clean up for you guys. Sorry. I've been in mask making production, so I've been making lots of masks for my neighbors and my sister and other people. So I've made a bunch of masks.
That's excellent, man. So during this time, you did this really cool video where you like make a mask where like you don't have to sew anything.
Yeah, no sew face mask.
How did you come up with that? Was that something that you already knew and you just kind of democratized that process, or what?
I like utilitarian sewing. I'm very influenced by Carol Francis Lung and her character Frau Fiber, and there is in Carol and Frau's studio, there's not a lot of waste, and there's always a movement to like move away from purchasing materials whenever you can, using what's available. And Carol had another Long Beach-based artist, had such a huge influence on how I see materials and how I see my practice. So I would always look for ways to make something without having to buy something. So, and I think a lot of people also don't have I see a lot of craft demos for people that is like, have first pleat the fabric like this and then use your special fabric tool to do this. And honestly, most people don't have a sewing machine in their house to make face masks. And
it's
even
hard.
it's
really
hard, yeah.
Because you
I
have
mean,
like more than one fabric that you're stitching, and then sometimes
oh
the
yeah,
needle won't work with that,
yeah.
and
And
then you have to
people,
worry about the strap and how the strap works and the
yeah,
length of the strap. It's
oh yeah,
complicated. I tried.
yeah,
I tried. As soon as I like knew that I needed to make masks, I was like, I'm gonna fucking whip out this thing and I'm gonna start doing it. And out of nowhere, I was like, oh fuck the pleats.
yeah. I hate pleats. Mine don't have pleats in them. Here, I'll put up my mask is like the kind that they. My mask is this kind.
Oh, that looks good. I like
These
that
are what
it has
I've been making.
the nose kind of cover, which is key.
Yeah, I didn't. It took me a while to realize I was actually just making it for. These are the original design, which is actually kind of small on my face. So then my husband was like, make it bigger. And then I have these
Yeah,
ones, which are
yeah.
much bigger. Yeah, I made a bunch. I'm sending these out to my sister.
That's great, dude. That's
But
really
hey,
good.
hit me up after. I can send you one too, Jorge, if you need
Oh
one.
man, I love
I'll
it.
send you some. I'll send you some for your folks too.
Thanks, I appreciate it. And I'll
I'm
put
slow though, so
your
don't
YouTube.
expect it 2 day
Sorry?
delivery. I don't expect a 2 day delivery. I'm a
No,
slow.
I'm not. I'm not. I'm not. We got a few masks. It's okay. But I'll definitely put your YouTube video on how to make a
Yeah,
stitch or sewingless mask on the Cactus page so that people can
yeah,
see it. So
yeah.
after
People
this,
should.
I'll make that happen.
Yeah, I mean, and with that mask, I was looking through all these face mask instructions online, and like, I don't know about this. Like, trying to find one that I could demonstrate. I was actually doing a demonstration for Art TV, which is a run by Platform Gallery here in Denver, and they wanted me to do a demonstration for. They work with a lot of students who don't have art in their high school, and that's a lot of the students that work at their at Platform Gallery. It's a great program, and so they were like, "Oh, we want you to do a demonstration." I was like, "Do the students all have sewing machines at their houses?" And they were like, "No." So that's why I was like, "All right, no sew face masks. We got to figure this out." So I actually went on some website and found this dad who made instructions on how to make a dust mask for doing like yard work out of a
Huh.
t-shirt. And I was like, dad tools, I can do this. So that's where I got the idea for it.
That's great. I do like that. I do like how you take the DIY um, inclination and then you just look at it from a very practical point of view. I remember when I was watching the video, I was like, "Oh man, you just made like my perception of making a mask that much easier."
Oh, good.
Because if you don't have to, because it's so easy. It's so easy. Once you see it once, you're like, okay, in any situation, I can have a mask.
Yeah, yeah. And I will say that the t-shirt mask material is only 30% effective at preventing the spread of COVID-19.
Yeah,
But
but but I mean,
apparently,
like it's one of those things.
some,
Once you
but
learn
it's
how to make it once, though, like
yeah,
you can like catapult from there to
yeah,
whatever it is that you want to make. But there's definitely like a stepping stool to that,
yeah,
and to empower somebody to have something where they wouldn't otherwise, especially right now during like the scarcity of materials.
yeah.
It's really key. Um, but
Absolutely. And I think I mean, that's key to how I approach my practice too. I mean, we're here in my studio, but honestly, like what's important to me often is this idea that my studio is also the being, with people, working with people, helping people learn how to make stuff and enjoy what they're doing and connecting with each other in that way. So when I make projects, I often try to start with something that people can have a sense of accomplishment with. So that's why those no sew face masks are so great, right? Because you're like, oh, cool, I can make 20 of these. And then they're like, you know what? Maybe I do want to learn how to sew and to do the more complicated thing. And it's the
yeah,
same thing
like
with weaving. I do weaving workshops. It's like, what's the easiest way to start this? Because honestly, if I was like, all right, today we're going to learn to weave and here's the tool we're going to use, most people are going to be like, oh, hell no.
yeah,
That
yeah, you'll
sounds
pull your hair
terrible.
out for sure.
Oh, look, Molly's on here. We were just talking about
Hey,
her.
what's
That's
up, Molly?
great. Hey,
We were just talking
Molly.
about you.
Yeah, we were just saying how great you are. Um, so, hey, nice clap. Hi, hi, waves to you. I'm gonna do snaps. All right, Jorge. Sorry, I cut you off.
No, that's okay. I do want to maybe comment on. So we're about 30 minutes into this, and
Okay.
wanted to ask if anybody else had any questions out there, and if they did, they can type them in just to invite everybody to have a dialogue with both of us. The other thing I wanted to ask is so quarantine's been kind of difficult for a lot of people, including myself. I cut my hair, and as you can see, I have this very little
Oh, it's
spot
cute.
over here.
I like
And
it.
it's it's one of those things that we all deal with in this current moment that we're moving. Christian Ramirez is on, and he's going to be our next studio visit later on
I
today.
saw.
Fun. But so, how are you holding up with this quarantine?
Well, I think your hair is cute, so don't hate on your hair. As you can see, mine I've grown it out. I will say, okay, so I have a very personal relationship with my barber. I love him. His name's Adam. He cuts hair at the Usual Barbershop in Denver. I think he's amazing. I love Adam, and I know all this crazy. I don't know. I just always have barbers that I'm just have a more personal relationship with than any other service person in my life. But I love Adam, and so literally the day before the quarantine acts went down, I was drove to Denver and got my hair cut. So, but it's now growing long, but I have to sort of put it on the back. All right, those are such privilege problems, hair problems. But no, quarantine for me, it's actually been, I'm a very social person. I'm very outgoing. A lot of my studio practice is based in community-based work. So I'm teaching workshops, I'm doing public projects. So that's really important to me. So COVID-19 is just a little bit of an adjustment to connecting to the public through things like this, through Facebook Live, through Zoom. I did a live Zoom mask making demo of the first week of quarantine. And it was super cool. I got to run it with my former collaborator, Janet Hollingsworth, who now lives in DC. So we were actually able to run the workshop together like we used to when she lived in Colorado. So I love that moment. I think that there's a lot of invisible privilege happening right now because of COVID-19. And I think it's really hard for everybody to see what their friends and family need and to provide that to them. So I think we're all having to learn to ask for stuff in a way that's very un-American. So I'm glad that people are reaching out and saying what they need and other people are helping them with that. For me, the quarantine has just been a time to just spend extra time in my studio, but I'm also a full-time instructor. So I teach 2 classes. I teach a class with 150 students, and I can't ask 150 students to meet me on a Zoom call. That would be kind of lame. I can't make them do that. So I'm teaching asynchronously. So I basically record where I would have given a lecture. I record it in advance. So that's a ton of work. So I record all my lectures and all my demos, how to edit video, how to use Photoshop. So I've been recording those. But what's cool is that I sort of let go of any level of finish. So I made a video yesterday where I was what's that? It's a lecture, a recorded lecture, literally in it. I'm oh gosh, what's that guy's name? During my lecture.
You know what though? That's great. That's super good. Not only because you get to reuse the recorded lecture, but also because you get to learn from it as an educator, and you get to reflect on and add things. Because I think one of the things that gets brushed underneath the rug, I guess, is that when you're up there as a lecturer and you're describing something, right? There's lots of things that go beyond you in the middle of it. But if you can see yourself and then add to it and then be prepared to extend a point on the next kind of version of it, it's always so much more empowering. And so thank you for putting in that effort, because teaching in this situation is not the easiest.
Yeah, it's hard to learn too. I mean, I don't really know how. I feel very yeah, it's like a vacuum. Somebody vacuuming?
Yeah, sorry. It's okay.
It's okay. Somebody's got a vacuum. It's good.
We have to share spaces, sound.
You're fine. I love it. This is what it is, right? So I would just say also that I worry for students and how hard it is to learn during this environment. And I've been kind of cutting back some of the curriculum just to kind of focus on things that are primary. I've made all my lectures much shorter than they would be in person. I don't make them sit through a 90-minute recorded lecture. They're more like 30 to 40 minutes because I just can't make them do that. I mean, and just today I had a student who is in my, I have a much more a smaller seminar class. And, you know, we do meet in Zoom. It's lovely. I love my students. I'm not in Animal Crossing, Molly. I wish I was. We do have a Switch though. So if this quarantine continues, I'm definitely going to get on Animal Crossing, but
That's
for the time haven't. Yeah. And if you guys haven't
so
seen
glad.
it, well, side note is Evan Garza, the curator. If you don't know him, he started one of the founders of the Fire Island residency. Shout out to Evan. He's been doing a bunch of research, and he just published an article in the Art Forum on Animal Crossing museums that people are making. I definitely want to check that out.
I have picked up on that vibe, and it gets me thinking whether I'm missing out on the Switch. But honestly, I'm not. I don't need any video games in my life. That should just will eat my fucking soul.
Yeah, I know, but I will say that Just Dance 2020 has been my fitness plan. I refuse to dance to Taki Taki. It's not a good song. It's just not a good song. But I have danced to many terrible Katy Perry songs on Just Dance 2020, which I'm pretty sure that her people are paying to put there's so many Katy Perry songs on Just Dance 2020. It's out of control. It's unnecessary, really.
Sonic Monster, I said RDR2. Is that Red Dead Redemption 2? Is that what it is?
Red Dead Redemption 2. That's the dad video game of the year.
Oh,
sorry.
Is that what it is?
Sorry, Christian.
No, I don't know. I don't think I could do it. I've thought about getting my Xbox out of
play Cowboy while on lockdown. You should do that for sure. I think that I think that Red Dead Redemption's cool. I am very privileged to be part of a when non-COVID times. I have a dad drinking group where we drink beers. Except for my husband and I aren't dads, but we kind of there's a couple professors which they let us be in there even though we don't have children, so we're still in the dad drinking group. We also are there to make fun of all the dads, but one of the things that a bunch of them do is they go, when they're stressed, they go fishing in Red Dead Redemption. They're just I get home and I just go fishing in my virtual fishing world and get real high.
No, guys.
I hope I am giving off some daddy vibes. I'm trying. It's my late 30s. I got to work the daddy vibe as much as I can.
Man. I don't know. I wish it upon anybody that wants it.
Go for it. I mean, I would maybe play it. I've been playing this. I've been playing a video game with my husband that's really awesome. It's called Love in the Time of Chaos, and it's about a world which is destroyed, and you have to bring together all the lovers of the world. And you two people have to play, and you run the spaceship through all these crazy scenarios, and you gather bunnies. It's really weird.
Is this on your Switch?
Nah, it's on Xbox.
Oh. Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Way beyond me. I stopped playing.
Oh, weaving, Papa.
But yeah.
Yvette, oh my God. Speaking of people that inspire me, Molly and Yvette in one room. It's nice to see you both. Oh my gosh, what a pleasure.
Yeah.
All right, what other? I do have to go in just a little bit because I actually have to have a meeting with students because this is still working time. It's really fun. But what other questions did you have before I take off this morning?
Thanks a lot. I really appreciate it. Thank you for your time and for just opening up your studio for this dialogue.
Oh my gosh, my pleasure.
I think more than anything, I just want to be able to use this platform as a window, as an escape for not just myself, but for my friends and for everybody that follows Cactus, so that they can wake up and get out and see some stuff, because we're all coping with the same type of experience.
Yeah,
we're in this together, and we all feel the same type of anxiety, and we'll get through it together. So it's uplifting. So maybe on that note, what type of things do you have pictured for yourself in this new world?
In the new world, the things that I've pictured for myself, I think that I think that part of this new world, especially from my perspective of teaching, is that thinking about how making things thinking more about how everything you do and the work that we create, making it accessible to everyone that you can possibly make it accessible to, makes it actually more enjoyable for everybody as well. Like just thinking about accessibility as an important part of art making, and especially in the classroom. I'm trying to think about multiple venues, multiple times, ways in which people experience things. And it's been actually really nice to see a lot of the virtual art projects that are going on and being able to go into spaces and talk to people. I had an artist talk last week where I was in my studio like this, and people asked a question like, how did you make that? And I was able to actually grab a sample of a project that I worked on, hold it up, and then show people like the stitches and how I put it together. And I think that that's like, that level of access is actually really interesting and intimate. And I don't think I'd had people in my studio like that before. Daddy drinking group, please. Of course you can. They'll love you. We'll invite you. Yeah, I mean, that's part of it, is this level of access that I think is really enjoyable. And I've been really enjoyed other people's studios, chatting with them like this, and reconnecting. And I think one of the things that this has shown us is that because we're all distant, is that the people that we have distant friendships with, it's important to make those people priorities in our life, as well as the people that are right around us. Even something as simple as like, I talk to my sisters every day in a way that I never did before. And I feel very close to them, and I love them very much. And a lot of the people that are on this chat and other people that I've had known throughout my life, like you, Jorge, just getting to reconnect and chat with you has been really a positive part of this experience. As long as I just stay off of the New York Times, I can usually keep a pretty good mood going for much of the day.
Yeah, because you know what? At the end of the day, like at the end of your day, the news is going to stay the same. It's getting updated on your news. That can happen at any time in the day. It's not gonna, it's not gonna make you feel any better. But what is gonna make you feel better is recognizing that other people are going through the same thing.
Yeah.
And because we share these experiences, we share our kindness, and we empathize in this new future.
Yeah.
And I'm real excited that you were able to open up your door and show us what's going on in your side of the world.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for everything, Stephen. Those are really wonderful words to leave off of, and staying communicated with those that are far from you. And
yes, absolutely.
Making that priority. So, feel free to chime in anytime with Cactus and send us anything that you need.
Of course.
Or
likewise.
To share. I would love to share some photos of your great aunt's work on the museum on the Instagram
of course
page too.
Please do.
Thank you for your time. Any last words you want or questions you have for me?
No. I just want to say that I'm looking forward to summer, and hopefully I get to see you again soon, and hopefully we can come through this. Everybody, please remember to wash your hands, call your friends. Love you all. Have a great day. I'm off to my first of many Zoom meetings for the day. I think it's the first of 5.
5. My goodness.
So it was nice to be on Instagram Live and not Zoom for a change.
That's wonderful.
I love you all. Y'all have a great day. Enjoy yourselves. Thanks so much for having me here today, Jorge.
All right. Stay safe, man. We'll talk
Bye.
to you later. Bye. And thanks for chiming in, everybody.